A couple of years ago, a quirky little card game from Japan was released called Machi Koro. This is a city building game where you would purchase cards from a central supply, and those cards would generate resources for you based upon the roll of a die. And it came out with a lot of buzz and a lot of popularity, and I thought it was just okay. Okay mechanics, okay theme. But today on Game On Video Reviews, I'm going to show you a game that has very similar mechanics to Machi Koro, but completely blows it out of the water. It's got a great theme, great mechanics, and it's just got a lot of greatness in it. I'll go ahead and just tell you that up front. So strap on your axe, your bow, and your shield, and let's step into the world of Valeria Card Kingdoms. So here's the board setup for a game of Valeria Card Kingdoms. The center board consists of 20 stacks of cards. There's going to be 4 rows and 5 columns. And the top row consists of monsters that you're going to be battling. The second and third row are citizens that you're going to be hiring to help you fight those monsters. And then at the bottom are domain cards that you can acquire during the game if you meet certain conditions that will give you special abilities and points at the end of the game. There are 3 resources in this game that are represented by tokens here. There's gold that's used to hire citizens, strength that's used to kill monsters, and then magic, which is a resource you can get that's sort of a substitute for either strength or gold. So whenever you have to pay either of these resources, you can use magic instead, provided that you use at least one of the resource that's required. Then we also have some victory point tokens here that are used to keep track of victory points that are gained during the middle of the game. Each player is going to start off with 2 cards in their starting tableau, a peasant and a knight. And it's kind of nice because the starting cards have a different back on them that say starter, so they're really easy to find. Each player will also get 2 gold and 1 magic. And then you're going to take this deck of Duke cards, which are end of game secret scoring conditions. And each player is going to get 2 Dukes, and you're going to look at them and select one of them that they will keep secret and only reveal at the end of the game. A turn in Valeria Card Kingdoms consists of 4 very simple phases. The first phase is called the roll phase, where the active player is going to take these 2 dice and roll them. And the numbers that come up on the dice are going to represent which kind of cards are going to activate on the player's tableaus. And there's going to be 3 numbers activated, the number showing on each die and the sum of those 2 numbers. So in this case, the 4, the 5, and the 9 will activate. Now what does it mean for something to activate? This card activation is called the harvest phase, and this is where each player is going to look at their tableau of cards and see if any of the numbers in the top left of their cards match the numbers that were activated from the die roll. So in this case, we're looking for 4s, 5s, and 9s. This player has a 5, so this peasant is going to activate. Now, if you are the active player, meaning the player that rolled the dice, you're going to get this benefit that's on the left side of the card. In this case, this player would get 1 gold. If you are not the active player, then you're going to get what's on the right side. And in this case, it's also 1 gold. But some cards are different and have different benefits, whether you're the active or non-active player. For example, this merchant card, if you're the active player, you would get 2 gold or 2 magic. And if you're the non-active player, you would just get 1 gold. So each player is going to look at their tableau and collect all the resources that are associated with those 3 numbers that were rolled on the dice. During the action phase, the active player is going to take 2 actions, and they have 4 different actions to choose from. So the first action that you can do is to slay a monster, and so you're going to look at the top row in the board setup here, and you're going to look at the top card in each row and see if there's any monsters that you can defeat. And each of these decks represents a different terrain, like hills and forests and ruins and things like that. And as you go through the stack, the monsters are going to get harder and harder until you get to sort of a boss monster at the end. So let's take a look at what you have to do to defeat a monster. So in order to defeat the skeleton, you need to turn in 2 strength tokens, or a combination of strength and magic. If you're able to do that, you will take this card, and then at the end of the game you're going to get 2 victory points for this card, and then immediately you're going to take the reward that's on the bottom. So you would get 1 gold for defeating this skeleton. The The second thing that you can do in your action phase is to recruit a citizen. So you're going to look at the second 2 rows of cards and select one of these cards and purchase it. And these are 10 sets of cards, and they're all replicates. So there's like 6 in each stack, and they're all the same. They're not like the monster cards that get harder as you go along. And you'll also notice that on the top left of each of these cards, there's a different number. So this is going to represent a different mix of cards that might activate when those dice are rolled. And so this could give you a better shot at getting more resources during the course of that roll phase. In order to recruit a citizen, all you need to do is pay the cost in gold right here to the bank. Now you'll notice it says 2+ here. What this means is that the first time you buy a rogue card, in this case, you're going to pay 2 gold. But then you have to pay 1 gold for every rogue that you already have in your tableau. And you may find some benefit in building up sets of these cards, because every time that this number is rolled in the activation or the roll phase, then these cards are going to activate separately. So if you have 3 of these rogues and a 7 is rolled, you're going to get this benefit 3 times. So there's some benefit that can be gained from having sets of these cards. The third action you can take in your action phase is to buy a domain. And there are 24 domains that come in the box. You're only going to use 15 of them during the game, and they're all unique. So they have special abilities on them, and they have a gold cost, but then they also have another cost as well. So you can see that this Cutthroat's Truce domain costs 5 gold, but there's also these symbols up here at the top here, which is another requirement. Each of the cards in the citizen row has a particular symbol like that on it, and so in order to purchase this domain, you have to have those symbols present in your tableau. So for example, in order to purchase this card, you would need to have like a cleric and a mercenary that match those symbols, and then you'd be able to purchase the card. You're going to get these points at the end of the game, and then you can immediately do this ability. Sometimes they're immediate abilities, and sometimes they're standing abilities. In this case, you can immediately take 3 gold from another player. The fourth action you can take in your action phase is pretty straightforward. If you don't like any of those other actions, you can choose to take 1 resource of your choice, either a magic, a strength, or a gold, into your supply. The game will continue in this fashion with players rolling dice, getting resources, and performing actions until the end game condition is met. And that is if all of the monsters have been defeated and all 5 of these stacks are completely exhausted, or if all of the domains have been purchased, or if a number of stacks has been exhausted that is double the number of players. So for a 2-player game, that'd be 4 stacks. As these stacks are depleted, the game comes with these cool exhausted cards that you're going to play down to show that the piles are exhausted. So it's very easy to see when the game is over. The game will end immediately once the stack that condition is met, and then you'll tally up your points. Your final score is going to be a sum of all the points collected from monsters that you've killed and domains that you've bought, and any tokens that you've collected along the way for victory points. And then you'll take a look at your Duke card. The Duke card is going to show your unique endgame scoring conditions. Like this Alexander the Protector is going to give you 1 point for every character with that symbol that's in your tableau, 2 points for every character with that symbol, and then 1 point for every 3 of these resources. So you're going to add up all those resources, divide by 3, and you'll get points equal to that. But these are very different cards depending on what kinds you get. For example, Reese the Firebrand here is going to give you 1 point for every citizen, monster, and domain card that you have in your tableau and scoring piles, and then 1 point for every 4 of these resources. So it's a different distribution and slightly different goals each time, so it can really sort of change up how you build your strategy in this game. The player with the most points at the end of the game is the winner of Valeria Card Kingdoms. Now, I'm sure that Isaias Vallejo, the designer of Valeria Card Kingdoms, probably is tired of having his game compared to Machikoro every single time it comes up. But unfortunately, there just are a lot of similarities to it, with the rolling of the dice, the center tableau with the cards, and a lot of the scoring mechanisms. But what Isaias has done with this game that I think it makes it so far superior to Machikoro is that he's opened up the economy of the game. That so many turns in Machikoro, I just sort of felt like I wasn't getting any resources, I wasn't getting any sort of engine or combos or things going on. But this game, the resources flow freely, and you just never feel like you're in a spot where you can't do something meaningful on your turn. You always can kill some sort of a monster or buy some sort of a citizen, get some sort of a resource, get some sort of domain. You just sort of felt like every turn something cool is going on. And I really, really like that about the game. I mean, as far as being like a really tight strategic experience where you're trying to squeeze as much as you can out of your resources, this isn't really that game. But I don't really like games like that so much. They just hurt my brain and usually make me frustrated. So I like to have a little bit of cash in the pocket there to be able to do the things that I want to do in the game. And this game has that in spades. I also really love the theme of the game being that you're hiring citizens and you're defeating monsters. In that respect, it sort of reminds me of Dominion, when that first deck building game came out, and the first purpose of Dominion was just get points. And then the next iteration of that came out with Thunderstone, which is a game where you were doing the same kind of deck building, but then you're going into a dungeon trying to defeat monsters. This is sort of how that feels. It's like it's Machikoro 2.0, where it's taking those same simple and really cool mechanics, and it's sort of ramping it up by giving you a theme now, that you're purchasing citizens, and then you're hiring them, and then you're trying to defeat those monsters and get those cool domains and castles and stuff. And so I just really feel like the theme is well integrated. And the artwork is really cool. It's a great production. The components are cool. The tokens for the resources are wooden tokens, and I think that's really, really neat. The last thing I want to talk about is the Duke cards, which is sort of a Lords of Waterdeep kind of mechanic where you have a hidden scoring mechanism at the end. I think that is sort of the icing on the cake for this game, because now not only are you getting tons of resources and you're buying things and you're killing monsters, but now you have some end goals that are different from your opponents that can earn you different points. And so you may be going after a different path where you're trying to get cards, and another player might be trying to get all of a particular different kind of symbol on a citizen card. And so it really just, I think, stratifies the strategy, if you will, and makes it a really, really rewarding experience. So this is one of the best games that definitely the best game I played at Origins 2016, and one of the best I've played in a long time. I'm sure this is going to get a lot of play. Highly recommended, Valeria Card Kingdoms.